Broadcasting from the studios of Business RadioX, it's time for Privacy Cafe. This show is brought to you by Hall Booth Smith, guiding clients through the intricate landscape of data privacy law. Now, here are your hosts.
Hi, everyone. This is Richard Sheinis at Hall Booth, and welcome to the Privacy Cafe podcast, where we blend legal data, private and privacy insights with the perfect content. I am here today with my co-host and partner, Jade Davis, and we are here today to talk about a topic that's in the news everywhere. That's the Paris Olympics. But we're not here to talk to you about who's winning the most gold medals and who's winning what events. We're here to talk about a data privacy law that was passed especially for the Olympics in France. So that's the only thing I'll let you know about for the moment, and I am going to ask my colleague Jade to go ahead and let you know what the heck is this law about and why did they need to pass a special privacy law for the Olympics. Go ahead, Jade.
Thank you, Rich. Last year, France passed legislation to permit the use of AI video surveillance for a trial period covering the Olympic Games to detect abnormal events or human behavior at large-scale events. Proponents of the law and the use of the technology say that its use can be pivotal to thwarting attacks like the bombing at the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta or the Nice truck attack in 2016. Government and private companies will be using advanced AI tools and other surveillance technology to conduct pervasive and persistent surveillance before, during, and after the games. And so the Olympic world stage and international crowds are pretty much being surveilled at each and every move. Certainly, the crowds pose increased security risks, so significant that in recent years, critics have described the Olympics as the world's largest security operations outside of war. And so the French government, hand in hand with the private technology sector, has harnessed that legitimate need for increased security as grounds to deploy the technology and advanced surveillance. Some of the items that were really important to acknowledge was that they didn't just start using it a couple weeks ago. They've been using it at major concerts, sporting events, in the metro and train stations during heavy use periods. They called this their testing phase, which greenlit for success for use at the Olympics. One of the examples was at a Taylor Swift concert, at the Cannes Film Festival, and the use will not end on August 11th. They're actually going to continue to use it at the Paralympics that follow. Supposedly, once that ends, the use will end, but who knows? And so the systems basically combine cameras and AI software to flag potential security concerns. One of the things that was really important to bring up were that there are at least 4 private companies involved: Zetalytics, Orange Business, Chaps Vision, and Wintix. These companies have developed the software, and that basically uses algorithms to analyze video streams coming from existing video surveillance systems to help identify potential threats. Critics of the law understand that security is very important, but they are also concerned about whether or not the bill or the law or the technology will actually allow for and use biometrics. They say no, the bill actually excludes it, and the interior ministers have said over and over again that they're not using biometrics, but how can you actually exclude it? That's been one of the big questions. And they're also concerned about when use will end. And this has just been a huge topic and one that I think poses lots of questions.
Jade, one of the things I'm thinking about, and honestly, when it comes to the government, I'm frequently a little pessimistic about why they do things. And sometimes the government says it's okay for them to do things, but then they don't want private enterprise to do it. So I understand that they say one of the reasons for using this AI technology is there are so many cameras and so many video feeds around Paris that there's no way they could have everything covered by manpower, just people watching video and watching screens. And so the AI programs are able to watch it, and because of their training, they could spot, oh, there's a fight starting at such and such location, and police could go, or there's unattended bags or luggage, which might be indicative of someone having left a bag with a bomb or explosive device in it. But these are things that also, to me, would be beneficial in private enterprise to protecting their property as well. So, for instance, if it's a shopping mall, and would it not be beneficial to have an AI or AI programs like this that would spot, hey, people are starting to fight in the parking lot, or there's something going on, and this will spot it more quickly. I just, like I said, I'm pessimistic when the government says, do as I say, not as I do, because I'm going to do something different and make up a reason to do it. Now, I'm all in favor of safety, but to me, it's also what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
I agree wholeheartedly. Some of the things that I brought up when I was reviewing all the information coming in about the AI-powered surveillance, one comment of a critic said, it will permanently transform France into a dystopian surveillance state and will lead to an all-out assault on the rights to privacy, protest, and freedom of assembly and expression. But the question is, like you brought up, won't private companies want to use this? Well, they're the ones developing and deploying it, absolutely. And are they only doing it to continue to package and sell to other countries? Or how else will they use it? Will it be buried in terms and conditions?
And one of the questions that I have is, when will the video footage be deleted? Is it deleted as soon as almost as soon as it's taken, in the sense of if there's nothing going on? You're going to have a lot of video footage where there are no fights, there's no crowds, nothing of note. So what happens with that video footage? Is it being deleted by these private companies? Is it being deleted by the government? And you mentioned earlier, Jade, that the AI is not supposed to track any biometrics, no facial recognition. But if they identify some fight, or let's say, God forbid, people are hurt, are they not going to go back and use this footage in order to identify the people that might be the culprits that caused injury or started a fight or set off an explosive if something like that happened? So I just am concerned about that. And then I'll shut up for a minute, but then I have one other concern I'm going to ask you about.
So I do agree with you on the biometric use. I think that despite the safeguards aimed at preventing the use of the biometric data to identify people, it is possible that training that data captures the information that the systems need, and they could be adjusted to actually use it, like you say. Those were specific questions that were asked while the bill was moving through before it was passed, and there weren't any clear answers on that. We also didn't get clear answers on how everything was going to be trained, but what we do know is that in addition to the thousands of cameras that have been deployed by those companies and placed on drones, they're also accessing the thousands of video cameras already located throughout France. And when you take into consideration the streets, the rail companies, transport operators, the additional drones, it's amazing to me. And they've not only had it at the Olympics, and then they tested it at the events prior, but there's nothing about, did they keep them dormant between those events? How is that working? It's really interesting. I'm quite shocked, as you are, that they were able to get this passed under the legitimate concerns arc, but also not giving any sort of safeguards as to when and how this will be used, how the information will be deleted, what systems are training the data, the error rates, how are they going to limit or inaccuracies, what are they going to do once they quote unquote delete it, who has access to it. There's just no transparency whatsoever.
Oh, Jade, once the Olympics are over, does the law, or is there anything written into the law that ends the law, that terminates it, and we go back to the same old way? Or does it just continue to exist until something is passed or some action is taken to say, all right, well, the Olympics are over, we don't need this anymore, so we're going to cancel this new law?
The law basically says that they're using it for the Olympics and the Paralympics. I would assume that they would no longer utilize the technology, but they're going to use this law and the language as a basis for future use at other events, other Olympics, other huge gatherings. But it doesn't tell us anything as far as how that's going to be done. And these are all the things that you and I, we deal with every day in contracts, right? Okay, we have the use. We're going to use this technology. We're going to work with our vendors. Then what happens after? How do we make sure that we don't have to engage into further conversation and we have everything inked in our agreement and we know what to expect? We don't see that in this law.
Yeah, I think it's to use a sometimes overused legal term, slippery slope, that once this is accepted and no one raises too big of a fuss, it'll just continue. And it'll be broadened a little bit here, a little bit there. But like I said, one of my biggest concerns, I'll circle back to the beginning of our conversation, is it does turn into a big brother being able to spy on everyone, because if they say, no, private enterprise can't do this, and private enterprise right now would not be able to do this, but it continues to be okay for the government. And that's the part that perhaps gives me most pause. And we won't know the answer, I think, until we go forward and we get to the end of the Olympics and see what happens there. But I'm also concerned that you have these private companies involved and what control there is over them. But
absolutely, I think I would feel much better if we didn't have such involvement by private companies and we actually knew exactly what the terms of their agreement would be. All we have is the provisional decree. We don't have any of the inner dynamics between how they're actually going to deploy, what was excluded, what was not included. We don't know what experts represented the French government when putting this into play. And everything I've seen from privacy experts and technologists are just complete and staunch opposition as it relates to privacy concerns.
Yeah, I don't know what is next. I think we'll have to take a wait and see what happens after the Olympics. But we should also keep in mind that with the European Union AI Act that was passed a while ago, technically went into force just last week on August 2nd, I believe it was, August 1st or August 2nd. And we know it's in staged enforcement, so there's a grace period for a little while before there is active enforcement. But it will be interesting to see as the AI Act goes into enforcement, how that will be affected by this temporary or so-called temporary law. And the EU has become somewhat of the gold standard on privacy laws. We know that happened with GDPR. They passed it in 2018. A lot of countries followed suit. And now they passed the AI Act. Other countries are looking to follow suit. And will other countries have this type of big brother approach? I know that people were concerned, this is going to become like China. And they said, oh, no, we're not going to be China. We're not going to do facial recognition, that type of thing. But I'm really just not sure about it. And like I said, being the pessimist that I am, I'm not too trustworthy that government will just say, yeah, we're going to use it, but nobody else can.
I agree. I think that we should circle back in March of 2025. That's when it's supposed to officially sunset, but that's several months after the Olympics finish. I don't know if they included that time because they're trying to ensure that they comply with, the private companies comply with their obligations under their agreement with France. but it certainly also creates a level of discouragement and worry with critics such as you and myself as to why we don't just have this complete break, or if there is a complete break in actually transmitting and collecting the information, but it's extended until March because of other reasons. Another thing that I did want to quickly talk about was any sort of conversation and dialogue between other countries regarding use at other events, or if we'll just see this primarily as it relates to the Olympics. That's what proponents are saying. Oh, it's only for the Olympic use when we have world-based or global events. But I think there's been a lot more conversation based on the information that these companies have been able to gather. And I'm pretty sure that these private companies are going to synthesize the information that they've been able to gather to push further use in other ways.
Yeah, and market it to private companies to the extent that they can,
Yep.
because not all countries are as strict as the EU is. So
Exactly.
Jade, thank you. As always, it is and has been a great pleasure to join with you for our Privacy Cafe podcast. I always enjoy the time with you, spreading some knowledge for our listeners. I should mention that Privacy Cafe is underwritten by Hall Booth Smith, and the show is part of the Hall Booth Smith podcast network. For more information, listeners can visit hallboothsmith.com. They can write us at privacycafe@hallboothsmith.com, or simply go to our website, check out our blog, send us an email. We're always glad to speak with folks. People can go to our blog and sign up for our monthly newsletter. That is a global privacy newsletter. And in fact, it will be coming out this week. It comes out the first week of every month. So thank you to everyone so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you for our next cup of coffee.
Thank you for joining us on Privacy Cafe. This show is underwritten by Hall Booth Smith, helping clients navigate the ever-changing world of data privacy and cybersecurity. For more information, go to hallboothsmith.com.